current just going on. My screen freeze, but what happened?
I still get you.
Oh, okay, back now. Okay, why so greasy? Shine quickly.
All right, all right. We back again, ladies and gents, boys and girls, children of all ages. We back again with another episode of Experts Podcast, brought to you by the Solid Podcast, Solid Pods Network. All rights reserved. It's your boy Sanzo Matic. Don't know how the thing go. It's popping. We got my co-host with me, CJ the X Factor. It's
Yeah, what's
popping.
good? Yeah. You know, LFG.
So I
Life's
give you, I give you
life's
this
life's
time
pretty good.
to get your little glory moments, and we wasn't able to pull up the whole episode. But I will say you was the first one on the record. So go on, get your little, you know,
We're Graylin. See, that's why I like when Graylin, yeah. He's be a little mediator in between. He like the home girl who's be in between
eat Molly.
yeah, it's Molly sometimes. But
That's your
like I
goat.
said, I know goats when I see goats. That's why I can tell you that other guy over there is an imposter. But we know goats when you see goats. Goats always have a burning desire for the game. It's very rare when you leave on top to leave with a loss when you know it's pretty obvious or it's like a thin line. See, Jordan could have leave at 98 because he won. If Jordan lost, if they did lose that 98 championship, I guarantee you Jordan wouldn't have retired. Jordan would have come back in 99, played again. The thing with Tom Brady, if he wanted to retire, he should have retired last year. The problem was Tom Brady know he had more in the tank because he came back the following year, lead the league in passing touchdowns, lead the league in passing yards. But you fall one pass away from the Super Bowl because no one could guard Cooper Cup. And you realize that, hey, this ain't really my fault. Like, we ain't going out because I play bad, like Ben Roethlisberger. We ain't going out because I couldn't carry my team or I fall up in the playoffs like Aaron Rodgers. But it's because, hey, the defense and we just was a play or two short. So Tom Brady decided to come back, like I said he would. And right before free agency started, so we could give the Bucks a good chance to reload before the draft, before all these pieces now. And to be honest, the Bucks went from probably not even winning that division to now probably winning the NFC again because so much dominoes have fallen within the last, let's say, 48 hours. Is that like the whole landscape is now heavy on the AFC side, when on our NFC side, it's like teams are getting weaker. So if you look at it and you see Tom Brady could stay healthy, it looks like Tom Brady's on the path so far. Things still could change, things still could happen. But as of right now, it looked like Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the path to heading back to the Super Bowl um, with the way they currently constructed.
Yeah, they definitely shooting for that. And I mean, it's interesting. Like, you mentioned it before, and you heard a few other sports people mention it, but not a few other ones mention that he would come back. And, you know, like I say in the chat, we had that boy is a huge troll. I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't really want to do this, didn't really want to retire, but I feel like he just put it out there just to see how he would feel saying it, if that makes sense.
But
I feel like how he would he feel a certain type of way walking away from the game, knowing that, like you said, he didn't go out necessarily on top. Now he ain't gone out bad or gone outside or nothing like that. I mean, he played a really, really good game in the playoffs. So he ain't like he going out, pussing or nothing like that. But he ain't really going out, with the hardware. So I feel as if when he said the retirement, that's honestly how he probably was feeling at that point in time. He's like, you know what? Uh, how would I feel? You know what I mean? This may not be me, but how would I feel just saying this? And then after a while, he had time to think, but he said, you know what, boy? I got a couple more good years left. But I mean, I obviously could still play at a high level. Why not just win one? Why let all these dudes up the front? I mean, the GOAT debate in his mind and in everybody else's mind, he far ahead. So it's like, all right, but I don't have nothing else to prove to no one, but I feel like I should come back and let me just do it for myself. You know what I mean? Let me just do it for my own peace of mind. You know what I mean? So that's where we at. It's definitely gonna be interesting to see. I mean, like he's still on top of his game, so I don't really expect no fall off. But now the race in the NFC, like you say, just get a little bit more difficult for some people who thought it probably ease up a little bit.
Well, first of all, let me make a correction here with all that slapping up because Brady didn't throw it out there. Brady didn't even put it out there. Y'all put it out there. And
It
even
was
Brady's
pounding
tried
it.
to stop it. And Brady was like, hey, 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 let me go call my coach. Let me go call my GM and say, hey, I didn't release this. Chef, to them talking about, oh, he here, I retiring this and that. So it's almost like, let's just see, let's see how it goes for true. Because it wasn't like, oh, Brady announced he was retiring. It was a rumor that went down first. And this was going on for like 2, 3 days. And then, like the following Monday, Brady released a letter to say, okay, cool, listen, I want to spend some time with my family. I want to do some other things, see how life is without football. And we'll go from there. But he found out rather quickly that way you live a lifestyle and you play a sport at a level that 99.9% of the world don't do. Are you really gonna leave that to be an average Joe now? Are you really gonna leave that to go and wake up and be a regular dad and drop your kids to school and pick them up and not saying nothing wrong with that, but my thing is
Definitely nothing wrong with that.
you are like you experience the 0.001% of the world of where you are the goat of a very competitive and very large sport. You really ready to give that up when you still good at what you do? I think not. So it's like I said, if Brady fell off a cliff that people been waiting on, or if he couldn't throw the ball anymore, or it was a bad season, they didn't make playoffs, like some other so-called person who think he's the GOAT about to do, then he probably would have hung him up and just say, hey, yeah, time has come, father, time has come. But he also always said he wanted to play till 45. Brady is currently 44. And obviously, he is those type that makes expectations and exceeds expectation. So it's like the minimum he should have gone was 45. And I'm glad he came back. Um, but this, with this Shine Cam to cover, who else could do that though? Um, like I say, ain't much people could do it, especially in football. We rarely see that. Like we always say, we had guys them at 20 something, like Andrew Luck. People be like, oh, he could come back and this and that, bro. That ain't happening. Megatron, bro, that ain't happening. Like it's very hard in football to get back up to game speed. We even see when like guys miss a year. Like you got guys like Adrian Peterson, and when they miss 1 year, fall off a cliff. JJ Watt, like some of these guys were at the peak of their career. And if you miss 1 year where it comes to either you left the game for a while or you had an injury, football speed and it is totally different than basketball speed or any other sport. See, play things like golf them, even though Tiger Woods is the GOAT, Tiger Woods could go right now, pick up a golf club and still go play golf. And like You see T.O. them talking about, oh, they still can play. Let T.O. them come in the league and see how they get smoke
They
on
get
this man.
marched straight down.
Like, bro, it ain't that easy. I don't care how good of a shape you keep yourself in. When you take a couple years off or a couple months off from football, you can get past rather quickly. So
Marched straight down.
the fact that Brady is doing it, I'm glad that he did it early. He took only about 6 weeks off, um, but yeah, it's LFG.
Yeah,
It's
and I think
trying to get this ring.
that's the reason why he did it so early as well too. To like, just to like, he didn't really take a bunch of time to really think about it. He's like, you know what, wait, let me just while early in the off season, let me just see how it feels. You see how it feels early in the off season. Officially put it out in the air that you're done with it. You put it out in the air. Once you put it out in the air, a lot of things change. People ain't gonna be bugging you no more. People ain't gonna be asking you necessarily to come and work out. People ain't gonna be, including you in free agent talks. They ain't gonna be including you in the media cycle like that. So once you put it out in the air, a lot of things in your life changes just from putting it out in the air. So I think he just wanted to feel, okay, like, how would this feel for me to say officially I'm done? And then, like you said, you always come back and say, you know what? Okay, I see how it felt. I see how it feels. I don't want to be done. Nigga go on to the grocery store with your kids for a couple of weeks and say, you know what? I ain't on this run, boy. Shit, this ain't for me. This I'm spend some time with you, wife. He said, boy, that ain't for me, boy. That ain't for me. I need to be back on the field. I can't be no family man right now. So, you know, uh, we'll see what happens. Definitely interested. Definitely the most interesting news from the NFL this week. But still had some other good stories as well. Um, Speaking of which, I want to briefly touch on something before we go on something else. You thought about how hard it is to come back in the league after missing so much time. So speaking of that, Kaepernick recently made his way around the news cycle again, saying that he's ready and willing to still compete for a contract.
Uh,
Um,
are we gonna do this every year?
and he's asking for some receivers to work out, some professional receivers, professional route runners to work out with, in hopes of preparing for a contract. So, I mean, I already know where you probably going with this. I think my thing with Kaepernick is you spend so much of the past 6 years or whatever, however long you've been in the league, basically trying to stick it to the NFL, basically saying how this is almost a racist organization. Um, and you spend so much of your time fighting. You done had lawsuits, you done received settlements and all that other stuff. I mean, aside from you being away from 6 years, which that alone is no much ain't much people getting picked up after being away from the game that long. But aside from that, why would you think you would still have a why would you still want to work for something which you say as treating you so bad? I just trying to figure out what is sometimes I just try to figure out what his end goal is sometimes with in terms of football.
And see, this is why I tell people. I mean, it goes a little bit further than sports, but this is what you have to realize when you decide to take a stand. You have to realize that when you decide to take a stand, you also decide to take a sacrifice. And at the end of the day, if you say you don't believe in something or you're not into something or whatever, keep the same energy because that's something that you say you don't believe in or you're not into. Keep in mind that's their situation. That's their league. That's their ball game. So if you say, okay, well, I don't like the NFL because the way they treat players, or I don't like how they didn't allow me to kneel, or they didn't Roger Goodell and blah blah blah. Okay, cool. Then stop asking them for a job. Go play in the CFL, go play in the XFL, or go start your own league. My thing is, you can't come in. That's like someone coming into your house, and your rule in your house is take your shoes off. And someone come in your house and say, "Oh well, I don't take my shoes off because that's just my thing. I don't take my shoes off in front of people." Then, bro, come out my house. Like simple. Like don't you ain't gonna come in my house and tell me you gonna wear shoes when everybody else in this house, including me, It's take their shoes off as a sign of respect or cleanliness or whatever you choose to be. But that's just how it is. So I understand him standing for something, but just realize that when you're standing for something, when the media or when these teams come at you and they say, hey, listen, you're a liability to our team or a liability to the league, or they don't want to be affiliated. There might not be 31. Well, I think at this point now, they should have 31 team. What you call it? QB is better than him because I don't think Kaepernick is still a top
31 starting QB for
30.
sure. Probably.
Yeah, I don't think he's still a top. I mean, maybe Zach Wilson because he trash. And that's your boy. But
What's in Josh for? How you feel? It's like Rico FM. Go on, man. Go on.
please don't. But yeah, the teams that had interest in him, I think they lost interest. Teams like he is trying to go with Washington. They got your boy from Indianapolis. Um, then he was trying San Francisco. Obviously, ain't taking that chance no more because they had him, and he basically left. I think the Atlanta Falcons he was trying out for, and then he blew it when he went down to Atlanta and say he was doing some workouts and then didn't show up and say he doing a different workout someplace down the road. I think that was really the last straw. It was the blatant disrespect that you feel that, hey, this is about you. It was supposed to be about a cause or it's supposed to bring awareness to a certain issue or a certain matter that had to do with the national anthem. But then, okay, you say, okay, you prove your point. More people are aware now. More people are on your side. Okay, now we choose to give you a job opportunity. I got some coaches flying, I got some people there. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I'm not coming there. I could be down the road. So y'all to come this way. What? Bro, we didn't want you anyhow. You just make the decision easy because more than likely you wasn't gonna be no starting quarterback on whatever team they signed you to anyway. You probably was just gonna be there as a backup and hopefully in some garbage time you might get on the field and everybody cheer and have a little ceremony, or you was gonna maybe if someone got injured, you would have had your time to shine and prove yourself. But other than that, I don't think Kaepernick could come back to the NFL and play at the level he was. Kaepernick took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. They was in the Super Bowl and up in the Super Bowl at one point. So it's like for you to get back to that point, like you say, 6, 7, 8 years later, big brother, it's rough. Very, very rough. The league has changed. Offensive schemes have changed. It's more run and gun, and you got Lamar Jackson and all these big arm quarterback and top tier quarterbacks that he have to go up against. I don't see him doing anything at this
Yeah.
point. Like I feel like he should just, like should stop coming out every year saying you ready. Like I sure Kaepernick got to be in his 30s now. Like Kaepernick can still
34.
be, 34.
Yeah.
Who you think he is, Fitzpatrick? Like
34.
most quarterbacks retire at 34 or before. You a quarterback who hasn't played since you was like what 20 something. Like you haven't played no professional football in your 30s, and you want to come at 34, 35 on an NFL team, bro?
Yeah.
Boy,
It's just no.
he got to be
I don't
good.
even see that. Like, and like I say, there's no disrespect to him because he obviously fighting for a good cause and he believe a good cause. But I think for him, it's like, for an NFL team, where's the upside in bringing you in? If
Exactly.
you ain't played the game in however long, you on the older side of uh the age for most quarterbacks, right? And it's not like it's not like you both to get better. You know what I mean? You trending towards a decline. That's just your age. That's just how age works.
Yep.
So there's no upside. There's no upside. There's no chance for you to get better. No chance for you to your skills to progress. And you ain't played the game in so long. So it's like it's so much that like you say that has changed in the game. And then if you're a backup, you know, is that really the best use case of a backup? You'd probably rather take a fly on a guy you picked in the draft somewhere in the third or fourth round or something like that as your backup rather than someone who who's a known player or known commodity. who probably still ain't gonna help you have a chance of winning, right? So it's just really not a good fit anywhere. And then I mentioned the media attention that probably would be surrounding his situation. So I want him to go to the CFL or something, but I want him to go to CFL or the XFL. Scratch that itch of playing football. Understand he's saying, the NFL is his place, but it just don't really make a lot of sense after you then say this is slavery. Like, it just don't really make a lot of sense after you say that, which I obviously don't agree with. You saying that's slavery, but it just don't really make a bunch of sense after you said all that. So anyway, I wish him the
Well,
best of luck.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what happens, but I wish him the best of luck. Um,
Well, speaking of things that don't make no friggin' sense, let's continue to move on. Just let's start with y'all. There's a lot of moves, a lot of big things went on in the NFL and NBA this week, but we can get to the NBA in about 20 minutes. But it's the NFL where you had your favorite, your pick, your so-called uh, best quarterback
yeah,
in the league,
yeah.
Mr. Crybaby. I always want to leave every year, Aaron Rodgers. Just suck up all the Packers cap space by signing a 3 year, $150 million salary to be the highest
Oh,
paid player of all time.
50 million, yeah.
Now, the problem here is now I agree with players getting the bag. I agree with people
Always.
maximizing
I always
their
agree
their
with him about.
their earning potential and X, Y, Z. Because if they could pay it, that means obviously they got it because they could sign you to the contract knowing that they could pay you $50 million a year. Cool. The problem is you now sacrifice other people's career, other people's salary, other people's I guess dreams for this one guy, knowing, like I told you all the time, that football is the ultimate team sport. This is also a reason that Brady is also the GOAT. It's not just because of his on the field stuff, it's because of his off the field stuff. Because if you look at it stats wise, the reason he could put up stats like how he put up is because he have his tight end that he always want. He have his receivers and his favorite receiver that he could always go to. And he takes pay cut to build his team to where they always in positions to win. The only way you could continue to win playoff games is that you got to make it to the playoff. And then you got to make it deep in the playoffs. Same thing like I tell you with guys like Patrick Mahomes then. Remember I tell you all this window is closed very quick. When you go to the AFC West right now, Patrick Mahomes in a tight this year. A tight. But we can finish with Aaron Rodgers for who in another tight before we go to Patrick Mahomes in the tight. Because these are some of the closest people like that people say are to Brady or in that and not same tier, but in that tier right below him. I look at this now as the Packers just basically writing their will. You're paying Aaron Rodgers now to be a glorified loser. Um, the guy has won one Super Bowl, and in these next 3 years, he still is not even going. Even if he win a Super Bowl in these next 3 years, he still would only have four, and that's highly unlikely that he's going to win any Super Bowl in these next 3 years. So it's like you're going to pay this guy $50 million a year to come in here and probably win a slack division that has the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears in it. And carry you to the playoffs every year with 12 wins, 13 wins, and maybe make a conference championship. And now you got guys like Devontae Adams who say he's not going to play on the franchise tag, but he wants a long-term deal. So you just give your quarterback 50 mil. How much you trying to give Devontae Adams? Because Dog is a top receiver. He ain't like, oh, he's a receiver on the decline or up and coming receiver. Like right now in the league, Devontae Adams is like top three. So if you take the top three salary right now from the top three wide receivers, and you say, okay, well, we can pay or we can make Devontae Adams the top paid wide receiver, he got to get about 20 to 25 million. So you got about $75 million tied up in two guys. And you really think you can fill your roster with 50 one other fellas to make a 53-man roster to win a Super Bowl, and you got $75 million off your cap, and your bucks going towards two fellas, and then Aaron Jones go on his money at one point. Jair Alexander go on his money. They just had to cut the linebacker Smith Preston, whoever they cut,
Mhm.
because they don't have the money to keep everybody. And then on top of that, you know where you know where the slack can go at the end of the season. Because the second they don't make the playoffs, or if they do scrap it and get beat again, that head coach gotta go. They can blame that poor young head coach for all the Aaron Rodgers debacle. So what is your solution, or what do you think about this whole $50 million season guy who maybe is win individual stats like MVP and stuff like that, but honestly and truly hasn't even made a Super Bowl appearance for Green Bay in the past 10 years.
So I can play devil's advocate, right? Um, Me personally, I questioned the move when it happened. Um, I thought, what exactly is Green Bay trying to do? But let me just play devil's advocate and try to understand the mind of what was happening, right? So I guess the thing is, I guess the biggest question you got to ask is, what was their better alternative? Now we could always say we could turn the keys over to a guy like Jordan Love, you know what I mean, rebuild, you know, and like you say, maybe try an affordable way to keep some of the pieces like Devontae Adams. You have a nice little core there with Jair Alexander, you know what I mean? So rebuild, restock through the draft. I see they just got a couple more draft picks. Restock through the draft, you know what I mean? That could have been an option. But who or what is to say that uh, that option is even a path to I wouldn't even say contention, but even path to relevance in the next 4 years, which is 3, 4 years, which is the length of Aaron Rodgers' contract, right? So now let's just look at what we have with Aaron Rodgers. We have him there for another 3 years, right? Um, we know that you have essentially failed uh, or come up short of expectations uh, for the last however many years since he won a Super Bowl. But at the same time, um, again, I say, what's your better alternative? This is a team at the end of the day that was still number one seed in the NFC um, before the playoffs. Um, Team that was still this is a quarterback that was still back to back MVP of the league, right? You could question whether he deserved that one last year. I would say the numbers probably don't really point in his favor as to him getting that MVP, but he still played like a top three quarterback in the NFL for a majority of the season.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is, you look at this from Green Bay perspective and you say, okay, this is our only path to relevance. Once we lose this dude, and again, if the dude wants to come back, this is where it gets tricky, right? This is where it gets tricky. People don't really talk about this kind of stuff, but you may know it's time to rebuild. But if a player wants to come back, that is by and large a ticket seller, a franchise cornerstone, there's no way to say no to that player. That history tells you don't really say no to that player. You just have to take him on and live with what happens. That's just how it is. So especially when they're still at the top of their game. So I think with Green Bay is at a point where the only thing I think they can do is to uh keep the core intact, find a way to keep Devontae Adams at a reasonable price, uh keep guys like like Ronald Cobb and Alexander in place, and try to build around the margins a little bit. Find little gems here and there. Maybe find a guy in the third or fourth round of an NFL draft that could help you. Find a free agent on the cheap, right? And then hope and pray that the team that was the number one seed in the NFC last year and was also, I can't remember where they finished the year before that, but also a pretty high seed the year before that, right? Hope and pray that they find a way to break through. That's really the only that's really the only route Green Bay have, in my opinion. And it's not necessarily a bad route to have because a lot of teams not win the championship. Not every team could win the Super Bowl. As long as you're giving yourself a chance, that's really what's most important. But I think that's the only road they have right now. And you, if they get a ring, if they manage to get a ring within one of these 3 years of his contract, I would say that was a success.
For 150 mil. You think I gotta pay 150 mil for a ring? Come on, man, that doesn't even make sense.
See, the problem with you, right? You judging everything on a Brady standard, and we already come to the conclusion that Brady
That's the
has a
highest standard.
standard has a standard that no one can catch. You judging these things from a Brady standard. You can't judge these things from a Brady standard. You have to judge these things from a regular NFL team standard in
Even
terms
from
of
a regular NFL team, we've seen this not worked out many times in the past. We just see Carson Wentz bouncing around the league. We see Jared Goff them bouncing around. These are people who sign these big
comparing
long-term contracts.
you comparing
You
these dudes
see,
to Aaron Rodgers, man. Why you doing
it
that?
doesn't matter. They got the
Behave
same
yourself
amount.
now.
Carson Wentz have the same amount of rings as Aaron Rodgers.
Who you think is a better player?
The same thing with Dak Prescott. It doesn't matter who's the player. This is a team sport. I paying you $100 million, $150 million, and all are sitting on the same couch. This don't make no sense.
I listen. Financially, obviously, financially, it's not the best outcome, and I agree, it's not the best outcome financially. But the key, what you have to do, like I say, if you're Green Bay, you have to find a way to say, okay, this is a core that has been very successful in the NFC over the past 2 years, at least in the regular season. Very successful, right? So keep this core together, find a way to build around the margins just slightly, and then you got to hope on luck after that. You really got to hope on luck. Now, you can't expect a Tiger to change his stripes. So I ain't necessarily saying Aaron Rodgers could show up in the Aaron Rodgers strikes me as a dude who's more of a fair weather type of leader in terms of if things are going well, he could take you over the top. Um, so you need to find some way or somehow to lessen his burden in those moments. Um, and you know, like I say, they got to find a way to do it. They got to find a way to do it. Find a way to maybe diversify the offense a little bit. Um, they have some good pieces. And I even mentioned Aaron Jones. They have some really good pieces, but like I say, luck will play a big role in this.
A lot of these people are gonna fall off just because of that contract. We've seen it happen with teams like the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints went out there, and when they was good, they signed these guys to these big contracts. And what ended up happening was, okay, now you get to a point in time where you 30, 40, 50, 60 million over the salary cap. And now you got to cut some of your best players. So it's like, what you doing all this for? Knowing that your salary cannot hold these guys on the books for the whole duration, even though Aaron Rodgers' salary contract is only 3 years, you're going to lose a lot of pieces in these 3 years. That's going to make your team worse. So you're going from probably 13-3 or 13-4 to now being a 10-6, 10-7 team or 9. You could have let Aaron Rodgers walk and bring in a Jimmy Garoppolo and still go 9-7 for half the price. Jimmy Garoppolo makes 27, which is almost half of 50, and you could get the same way. Yeah, he might not be the flashy. Yeah, he might not give you the same the amount of touchdowns or the personal accolades. But last time I checked, I ain't paying no guy, and I don't understand how owners just do this. I'm not paying a guy to come here and pad his stats. Like if you come in here and you want to make yourself look good, and everything is about you, and you worry about your stats and how much games you play and how much touchdowns you score and how much yards you throw, then I can be like, bro, yeah, we can give you what we feel like you deserve, and then I can spread this money around the team. But now I feel like it wasn't even Aaron Rodgers begging to stay. It was more Green Bay begging for him to stay. And I feel like they put themselves in a bad position because you had your chance. Like This wasn't even a contract year. You let Aaron Rodgers legit bully you every single offseason. Every single offseason, this man has come out and say, "Oh, I don't, I'm not sure how my future looks." Like, bro, you on the contract track here. What you mean you ain't sure? You got like 2, 3 years left on this contract. What you mean you ain't sure? We have to trade you. You what you can do? Sit out? Okay, you sit out and then we take your salary. Like, okay, you making it easy. So it's like, bro, I don't understand the situation. And for his sake, I hope he at least makes the Super Bowl. If he wins one, that's cool. But I hope he at least makes the Super Bowl because this will be a big smudge on the end of his career if he doesn't, and if it now starts to become a fallout, because like I say, guys can start wanting their money, because you ain't the only top person on this team at your position. You got a top cornerback, a top wide receiver, a top running back, and everybody ain't gonna watch you making your $50 million, and you pulling up to the practice in your nice big Ferraris and your Teslas and your floating cars, and I must be here friggin' catching Uber and stuff because we can't get me to a long term deal because you want suck up all the pay, and then you come into practice stunting on me. You get your Versace flip flops all over my locker, and you throwing your friggin' fur coat all over my chair and stuff. And I here trying to talk about, we need to figure out how to save the team money. No, big brother, I ain't saving you all that. Obviously, y'all know how to throw money around. So I hope the organization know what they do because it's more than an on-field situation. It does spill over into the locker room, and it does create rifts around the organization. Um, Speaking of rifts, like I say, we had some big ripple effects that went down this week, and we had Russell Wilson finally getting out of Seattle, or Seattle finally getting rid of Russell Wilson, however you go, vice versa.
Mhm.
And he's now a Denver Bronco. I feel it's a very good fit for him. When I say for him, I mean personally, because to be honest, Seahawks was on a downward spiral. So you want an up and coming team. But also, like I was saying, this actually goes to my point of saying that championship window that Mahomes was on is getting much tighter
You gotta
now
watch them play on the
because
field first, man.
it doesn't matter. You ain't gonna have chalk no more, regardless. Russell Wilson can automatically be better than Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, whether he's on the field or they ain't play a game yet. Just him just being in that locker room. The Denver Broncos have already gotten better than what they was last year. And it's not only the Denver Broncos. You also have another team in that division that is stockpiling talent. And
That's the one to worry about.
you
We
got
covered that.
the LA Chargers,
We talked about
who
that.
out there not just acquiring talent, but I talking about like they get Khalil Mac. Like you may not remember, most people have not remembered Khalil Mac probably because he played for Chicago Bears
He's a monster.
recently in these past couple years, and a lot of people don't rate the Chicago Bears, and nobody really watches their games, so you wouldn't really see how uh, I guess good he is, basically. But to be honest with you, Khalil Mack is right after Aaron Donald when it comes to pass rushing and controlling the line. Khalil Mack is still top five. I'll give him that. He's still a top five player. And they now go into a Charger team. Number one, the Chargers finished 9-8 this year. Keep in mind, they finished 9-8, and they had a lot of injuries. Now you bring back Joey Bosa on one end. You add Khalil Mack on another end. Then you went out and get the top cornerback on the market, who was second in the league in interceptions last year. And then you put him in the backfield with your top safety, who was one of the best safeties last year. So you just closed in that defense to where your pass rush is now good and your pass protection is now good. And then on the offensive side, you re-signed your wide receiver. You still got Eckler them coming back. And now you got Justin Herbert going into his third season, who is now really, you could see the game is slowing down for him. Like when you watch the Chargers play, you could see him more, like he was always nice and he was always smooth, but now it's like he plays with a poise. Like he has a pocket presence that he isn't even getting rattled anymore. Like the game is literally slowing down for him.
Gotten
So,
better for sure.
bro,
Definitely got better.
that team there, along with being in a big market and having a good stadium, like all these things play a part of morale, team, all these things. When you look at the division, the two worst teams got better. The Chargers was 9-7, and the Broncos was 7-10. They was the two worst teams in the AFC West last year. Both of them got better to the point of where it's not a runaway division anymore. And then the Raiders now have a new coach. It's still yet to be seen what they're gonna do with Derek Carr. Um, if they're gonna bring him back, I mean, to me, he's not a great QB, but he's a good QB because
Good. It's good. He's
last
decent.
year, for the first probably 5, 6 games in the season, Derek Carr was an MVP candidate
Yep.
with the amount of yards and stuff he did before they had the whole Gruden situation and the Henry Rugg
Very well
situation and
situation. Yeah.
all them old distractions going on in Las Vegas. But before that, Derek Carr was
He's
on the
good.
path of MVP. So, like I say, bro, that division there, that window for the Kansas City Chiefs where, oh, we could just run through our division and just make the playoffs automatically, that ain't gonna be the same this year.
See, listen, I'd agree with you if I didn't see the Kansas City Chiefs sort of go through that little bit of adversity last year, regroup, and then find a way to be a game away from Super Bowl appearance. So, and I mean, really a half away because they really fumbled that off, fumbled the last half. So, um, I would agree with you definitely if I didn't watch that happen. Um, but I'm not going to say they're going to run away. Obviously, the AFC is tougher, and especially the AFC West, right? But let's put things in perspective. I mean, Russell Wilson comes in; he's the third best quarterback in that division, at best, right? At best, he's the third best quarterback in the AFC West, right? Um, they got better for sure. They got better definitely, and I like the team that the Broncos have. But I still would take the weapons in Kansas City. Uh, they are much more proven over dudes in Denver. Um, Now the Chargers scare me a little bit. Addition of Khalil Mac was definitely a big addition. Um, and also getting JC Jackson, that was also a big pickup. Defensively they should be a lot better. And I think offensively Herbert is just starting to develop some consistency. On any given night, he could be the best quarterback on the field on any given day, any given game. So I would say that's a very scary contender in the AFC West. I'd say they have a dark shot horse of winning that division. But I think Kansas City to me, and you could slot them along with the Buffalo Bills. Uh, our mainstays to me in the AFC. I think those two teams um, are going to be uh, consistent contenders in the AFC for the near future. That's how I feel. And once you get there, obviously we already seeing as evidence from last year, anything could happen, right? Anything could happen, as we saw from last year. It comes down to strategy. It comes down to adjustment. It comes down to people who are willing to take on the challenge and deliver their teams to victory. Anything can happen. You know what I mean? You know, Cincinnati made a Super Bowl, so anything can happen. But like I say, I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes necessarily. I feel as if as long as Kansas City Chiefs do their job, they still have the weapons in place. They haven't lost anybody significant, so not yet at least. So as long as they can keep the majority of their core intact, I think they'll be fine.
Well, like I say, y'all like to keep hope alive. Y'all don't know when to cut ties and cut the rope. My thing is, you don't have to lose anyone because, like I said, people around you got better. This is the reason why when they first started, they were so good and they could have made the Super Bowl. And then every year after that, it just got worse and worse. You made the Super Bowl the first time, you win it. The second time you make the Super Bowl, you lose it. The third time you couldn't even make the Super Bowl. Now, like it's like every year you ending up in a worse position because guys figuring you out. You still have the same team, but it's like, okay, we know when it's playoff time how we can deal with Mahomes, how we can deal with Tyreek Hill, how we can deal with Kelsey. Like the tape is out on you guys now. And then, like I say, you're going against elite guys now. Joey Bosa was never a slouch. Khalil Mac was never a slouch. Those safeties, those wide receivers, like I feel that the Chargers actually have enough to put them over the top to actually win that division and beat Kansas City in the playoffs. And it's possible because we just watched Joe Burrow come out here. No one, I don't care who you were, couldn't come to you last season and tell you he was going to beat Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl at the end of the year. So it's like guys are now capable of beating you, and the road just got tougher. So hopefully they could rebound and they could do something. But tides change. This is the NFL. Like it's people get spoiled when they have franchises that they can always lean on or pinpoint, like just say like the Patriots or the Steelers at one point in time, where you could say, okay, this team, regardless, is going to be good every year. So it's like, okay, some people believe that, hey, it isn't that hard to stay at the top. But trust me, it is very hard to keep that level of success for 3, 4, 5 year window. I always use teams like Jacksonville as a
That's the extreme example which you was used. Jacksonville,
yeah,
who
the problem is, see, like I said, you always forget. You always say it's an extreme example, but Jacksonville has been better in more recent history than your favorite team or most people's favorite teams. People just forget that just about 4 or 5 years ago, Jacksonville was one game away from getting to the Super Bowl. When they had you all believing that Blake Bortles was actually good, when he
no
was
one is believing
never
that.
good. Y'all always are saying, oh, well, oh, they need to resign Blake Bortles and they need to keep this going.
No one is saying
They always had Jalen Ramsey, they had Miles Jack, they had all these pieces. And Jacksonville went 13-3. Literally, this was just like 4 or 5 seasons ago.
that. Yep, it
Now,
was.
Jacksonville have back-to-back first round number one picks because they're the worst team in the NFL. So it's like this window and this tie could shift so quickly that you could literally go from the top team in the AFC to the worst team in the AFC in a matter of 3 seasons. Not saying that Kansas City will hit that rock bottom because that's why you pay someone like Patrick Mahomes that type of money to keep them relevant, at least above 500 for the next couple of seasons, I guess. But it's a quick tie. You see the Dallas Cowboys, that team they had last year, that was a team for them to make the playoffs. This year, not gonna happen. Certain teams who've been on top. Look at the Ravens. The Ravens last year, everybody was going crazy about Lamar Jackson and blah blah blah. One little turn of the ankle, Ravens can't make playoffs. So it's like the NFL is a very that's why it's so intriguing because it's a very, I would say, unstable type league, but it's actually good for business because you don't want to see the teams like how the NBA had Golden State for a couple of years, or the Bulls in the 90s, or the Lakers in the early 2000s, or the San Antonio Spurs. Like football don't have that. I mean, besides the Patriots, but even now the Patriots is not at that level anymore to where it's just utter dominance. So it's good for business, and I don't know, like there's still some big dominoes to fall.
It's good for parity. It's good that you could have a lot of teams that could rise up each and every year. Um, and I think that part remains true. But like I said, and I'm not saying that other teams didn't get better. And like I just said, even with the Chargers, I would probably pick them as a dark horse to win that to come out that division as champions. Um, I think, yeah, for sure. We've seen Kansas City come up short this past year, and we know that um, anything less than a Super Bowl for a guy as highly touted as Patrick Mahomes is a failure. Um, but at the end of the day, like I said, for me, the core is still going to be good. Now, Once you still good, now it just comes to the point of how are you going to play in the playoffs, and that's the key right there. That's the biggest. It's the biggest hurdle right now for Patrick Mahomes, and in the AFC, similar to it's the biggest hurdle for Aaron Rodgers in the NFC. Um, what are you going to do? You've come up short a few years now. How are you going to make adjustments? How are you going to overcome some of these teams that on paper are better teams than you, right? Are better teams than you. But it comes down to adjustments. You've lost the teams that you were better than on paper as well. So, you know, uh, I don't think their run in the AFC is over. It did get a lot more challenging for sure, but I don't think it's over. I think um a lot of adjustments has to be made. But keeping the core intact, like I say, as long as they have that there, then they could build from there. But adjustments will have to be made for sure. Uh,
Well, like I say, we still have some big dominoes to fall, and they play major roles. We still have Odell who's a free agent.
yeah,
Odell with Tom Brady coming back, anything is possible because him and Tom Brady have this relationship that they always had. Um,
he will be a big domino. He'll be a huge domino forward.
Even though
Um,
he's not probably going to play the first couple of games of the season, as we
yeah.
could see once a healthy Odell is on the field, he makes any team better. So if Odell go to the Bucks, then the league in problems.
We got Baker who just come up with a letter expressing his gratitude to Cleveland.
That's another one.
What you what do you
Um,
what do you think that means? You think it's the end of Baker Mayfield inside Cleveland?
I mean, not to go on the bench because they don't have nobody behind them, and I think they purposely did that so it don't have to be too much drama. But if I was Cleveland, I would trade Baker Mayfield. With this season, you having quarterbacks on the market that number one, you don't have to overpay. Like I say, Jimmy G, when he got his contract, may have been an overpay. But now when you got Baker Mayfield and who looking at Dak salary and looking at Mahomes salary and looking at the other guys who Josh Allen and all these other guys who are in their realm and the years and the amount of money they got, Baker Mayfield is gonna want 35, 40 mil a year. And you could now get a Jimmy G, and you could trade Baker Mayfield now while he's still on his rookie contract and let the other team extend him. Or you could go after someone like Deshaun Watson and say, hey, this guy hasn't played a whole year. And plus, he don't want to play for you anyway. So it's like, hey, Baker Mayfield could go, I'll trade him for Deshaun Watson in a heartbeat. I would trade Baker Mayfield for um, Jimmy G in a heartbeat. I would trade Baker Mayfield for Derek Carr in a heartbeat.
Is Jimmy G fine now? What I
Not
tell you?
really, but Baker Mayfield just needs to get out of there because I just don't see it. Once you start writing letters to your fans and your fans then start accepting it to the point where, hey, yeah, yeah, thanks. Uh, how long you will be here? Like, you leaving now or you leaving later? So it's like the fans ain't turning back and say, "Oh no, Baker, we want to keep you. We want you forever." The fans saying, "Yeah, man, we had a good run and this team nice, but yeah, we could find something better." Um, and I don't blame them. So my thing is, yeah, if I was the Cleveland Browns and all the moves they've been making over the year, where they get Jadavian Clowney and Sheldon Richardson and some of these big names that they actually brought in and they spending this money, while you still have Nick Chubb under contract and while you just get Amari Cooper. It's like, bro, this team has been primed. The Browns have actually been primed to win for the past 2 seasons. Low key, they have been ready to win for the past 2 seasons, at least make it to the AFC Championship game or maybe sniff a Super Bowl. And they just haven't been to the Super Bowl or even gotten that opportunity because Baker can't put you over the top. So I feel like they need to make a move. Jimmy G has that experience. Maybe he's not, though, like I say, a superstar who's going to give you 40, 50 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but he's going to be a bit better pickup at this time financially and on the field than Baker. Derek Carr also as well. And you don't mess around Russell Wilson. and try to get Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson would really turn that franchise around. Deshaun Watson turns any franchise around right now, honestly and truly.
He definitely would be a better fit than Baker. I think with Baker, his time in Cleveland, sad to say, short lived, but it's up. You know what I mean? Start off the rookie season, for a team, low expectations, right? It was just like basically, just win a couple of games because didn't really win anything the year prior to getting you, right? Low expectations, you know what I mean? Showed some flashes, cool, right? Well, like I tell people all the time, you want to see the true test of a player, put him in a position where he has to win. Then you will see the true test of a player. A lot of players can play bad, can play good for bad teams. It's no expectations, right? And the biggest credit, or let me say, in his defense, he's still a young guy. He still has chances to turn it around. But the Browns took his flashes and immediately decided to say, we think we can build a caliber team around you. And it did look good early on. But then the cracks did start to show. The uh, dissension started to seep in from teammates, right? And obviously, it didn't help that injuries also affected them getting their chemistry together and all that, you know. But I think the ultimate nail in the coffin is Odell uh, you know, basically questioning your quarterbacking skills, and
And
being proven right.
Odell and Daddy.
Odell any daddy, questioning your quarterbacking skills, and then being proven right. I think that's basically the nail in the coffin now for you, at least inside Cleveland, right? Do I think he could still be a starting quarterback? I still think he has a chance. Like I say, he's still a young dude, right? But I think rebuilding his image is not the most important thing. Where can he go? Can he go in a low stakes environment where he can just slowly rebuild his image as a starting quarterback without the need for expectations being placed on him? That's going to be the key for Baker. Um, and it could be the Browns. It still could be the Browns. But like you say, after releasing that note and the responses I've seen him getting from that note you release, where fans don't really seem too bothered about him about him pushing out. Now you wonder if Cleveland is the right spot. I just don't think his head is in the right space in Cleveland. Um, and I do think a change of scenery would help him out a lot. But it has to be an environment with low stakes where he could sort of make some tweaks to his game and sort of rebuilds his image.
Yeah, I think that'll be key for him because he's also another person who's in a division that he didn't take advantage of, and now you had the Ravens who was had a down year this year. You had the Steelers who had a down year this year, but then you let the Bengals come out of nowhere and come from last place and gone to the Super Bowl. So it's like, bro, these expectations are now heavy because it's like you've been here before Joe Burrow in this division. You've been have all the pieces. All Joe Burrow got was his wide receiver who he was playing with in college. We don't give you Odell. We don't give you Jarvis. We give you Nick Chubb. We give you Kareem Hunt. We give you multiple tight ends who was nice. We give you Miles Garrett, we give you Jadavian Clowney, we give you Denzel Ward. Like, bro, we give you all these pieces, and you can't even get us to the Super Bowl. And all friggin' Joe Burrow needed was his wide receiver, and he ain't even had a good offensive line, and he was able to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, bro, at that point in time, I think the frustration has mounted that Baker Mayfield has now played 4 seasons, is going into his fifth season, and they just haven't seen the results. So, like I said, I hope he gets a fresh start somewhere where he could prove himself. But it's still up to him to prove himself. He'd have to go through like a Carson Wentz type situation. But if if the Browns want to actually be relevant next season, I think it's time to get rid of Baker right now because you got the Steelers rebuilding. If the Steelers get Deshaun Watson, to me, honestly and truly, I feel like that's the best situation for Deshaun. If it was me, I was going to the Steelers because number one, I have a good head coach. Number two, they get Brian Flowers, who's their one of their defensive coaches. You have a winning organization. You have a young running back in Najee Harris, You
Yeah.
got some young, good wide receivers. You got a good defense with Minka Fitzpatrick and all these guys here. It'd be like, bro, the only thing they missing is you. If they had been Roethlisberger, could have carried his team to the playoffs. And like, what could you do as a young, mobile, accurate
Yeah.
quarterback in that system?
And the stakes is very, very low for Ben last year too. It was just basically a point to where
Just fling it.
just fling it. You don't overextend yourself. If you can't get it downfield, you got some nice young backs there that could, that could gain some yardage. So it's like if you have a quarterback that could actually, like you say, get out the pocket, move around, um, and still throw with accuracy, you diversify the offense in a completely different way. So I think that's a team, like you said, that a lot of that should be eyeing um, quarterbacks. I'm really surprised that they haven't already pulled the trigger on something like that. But we'll see in the coming weeks what they do. But yeah, that's definitely a team that should be eyeing some a quarterback to like stabilize that position. But with Baker, like you say, I just hope that he goes to a place, gets a fresh start, whether it's a backup role um, or a starter role, but just a low stakes position where he could sort of uh, just get his image up again after all that's transpired in the last few years. Precious of being a number one
Well,
pick.
I guess, and that was rough. But yeah. I mean, we got plenty more time. The NFL hot season and the free agency frenzy is just beginning. We have a lot of time left. We got the free agency, we got trades going on, we got the draft coming up, combine, all these things. But let's segue over now quickly. Let's get a couple topics or a couple uh, opinions on the NBA right now. Because obviously the NBA right now is on fire. Everybody, just about every day, dropping 40 plus points. Um, we got Kyrie Irving going off tonight. Of course, that's my boy for 60 points. And it's be like,
Correct. Yeah.
bro, how dog, how y'all allowing a guy who don't even play every game come in and taught you for 60 points? Like dog ain't even in full stride. I mean, the only thing left for the people to do now is let Ben Simmons come and score 40 points. If Ben Simmons come and score friggin' 40 points in the NBA in his first probably 5, 6 games, something got to be going on. Like we have to investigate what's going on with the ball, what's going on with the rim, what's going on with something because every week, like, and you got guys who this ain't normal too. Like, yeah, we know the Durants and the LeBrons and the Kyries and the Tatums. Now you got guys like Josh Hart.
At 44.
Then you got guys like De'Aaron Fox. It'd be like, hold on now, hold on now. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, so it's like in the past week or so, like the NBA has literally been on fire, and guys are putting up crazy numbers, and I don't know what it is. But me personally, being an offensive guy that I am, I like it. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Kyrie. I don't know what they can
Yeah.
do with this mandate. I don't know if they meaning. To be honest, I could look at it and it looks like Brooklyn is sandbagging just so like they could have not have home court advantage and they could play on the road in the playoffs because if you really look
I'll
at
benefit
how
from you.
they play when they want to win, they could go into Philly and beat the best team in the East with ease. They could go into Miami, beat the best team in the. I'd be like, bro, how you losing regular games, but then you was coming here and smash good teams, and it's like, bro, they really sandbagging because they want a low seed. So just in case this whole thing doesn't play out properly, you got Kyrie now who could play more games in a series because the series possibly could be outside of the city. Whereas if you play in Chicago or Miami or any place but New York, because we know New York ain't making the playoffs. So that's one less team you have to worry
Yeah.
about playing. But yeah, like it's crazy
Um,
because Kyrie still got that juice, and you actually keeping him fresh. Dog when he play half the season, so it's like when you see May come and they ramp it up, Kyrie coming in fresh, while all these other guys like the Rose in them, they burning themselves right out trying to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's almost like a bubble situation, right? Like you say, Kyrie coming in fresh, and I mean, it all depends on how they handle the mandates, right? Like the assumption is eventually they could let Kyrie play, but this play has been so weird to where I don't even know when it's happening. Like we've seen now, they started to loosen up restrictions, but the private mandates still dictate that Kyrie necessarily can't play. He could be a spectator in the arena, right? Which makes no sense. Be a spectator in the arena, sit courtside at the games, dap up everybody and all that other stuff, but he just can't be on the court. So um, this is a weird situation, and I want people to understand too that this don't only apply to Kyrie. A lot of workers in New York lost their jobs over the same mandate. Um, so we've already acknowledged the mandate don't make no sense, and it's been the case for a little while. But you do wonder, like, if they ever plan on dropping it, right? At least anytime soon, and that's the scary part. To me, Brooklyn still has enough to beat a top team in the East, like you already mentioned. I don't know what the number one seed is right now. I think the number one seed is Miami. They could give Miami the business if especially if Kyrie had the over the cost of 7 games. If Kyrie is available, but if he isn't, now all of a sudden, if you're a top team, you want the playoffs to get started as soon as possible because you don't want to take the chance that Kevin Durant have another weapon waiting on him. You don't want to take that chance, right? We obviously still haven't seen Ben Simmons play yet, right? 15 games left in the season, right? 15 games left in the season. Now Ben Simmons has to ramp up now and get ready for the playoffs, right? After not playing for a year. So my whole thing with the Nets is I always said they are the most talented team in the East. They have everything go right, they come out of the East. I just feel as if everything is not gonna go right. And if a top team like a Miami could catch them in a vulnerable state, I believe the Nets could lose in the first round of the playoffs. I just don't think everything is gonna go right. There's a lot of time left. Obviously, things can change, but time is starting to wind down. And like I said, we seen what they could do fully straight. At least we ain't really even see because Ben Simmons didn't play yet. So we definitely believe they could do a lot of things fully healthy. But the margin for error for Brooklyn is getting very, 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 very small. So we'll see what happens with that law. What do you think about the mandate? Like I already said, it don't make no sense. What do you think?
I mean, it
Um,
obviously doesn't make sense. Like um, the fact that, like I said, you could come into the building, you could sit down and be next to people on the bench. Obviously, isn't a threat to their health and safety. I think most people's minds at this point is more of a threat than the actual thing anymore. But yeah, like the mandate don't make sense because he could go in everybody else's arena and play ball. And you could tell me, okay, we done travel on the same team, we done travel on the same bus, we done hang around in the locker room, we probably somebody probably ride to the game together, we done do all this together, and then you would tell me, oh, I can't go on the court with my guys because dog ain't want raise the mandate or something to let people who are unvaccinated by choice just go to work and make a living. Like I say, it's not just Kyrie, but it's
yeah,
like the everyday people who, like I say, by choice, they did number one, you didn't choose this disease or this pandemic. So at the end of the day, yes, you didn't choose for this to happen. And you have a choice whether, hey, you want to take a vaccine or you don't want to take a vaccine. And if you choose not to, then hey, it's just like the flu. You give out flu vaccines every year. And I never take no flu vaccine. No one even ever asked me if I ever take a flu vaccine. So it's like, hey, yes, but we didn't know how this would have played out. But now with the research and the studies, and we went through 2 years of lockdowns and agony and all this stuff, and you don't get all your facts and statistics right. At this point in time, it's just, hey, let's go back to normal. Because they even dropped the mask mandate. You ain't want people wear masks no more. But you
Exactly.
want to me up in a vaccine? Like,
So
wow.
they dropped the mask mandate. A lot of places in the U.S. you don't have to wear a mask at all.
Exactly.
So we've gotten to the point where the virus is starting to be in the back of our head, right? It's starting to become a distant memory, right? Which is good. Thank God for that. But
Yep.
now you're still dealing with, like you said, with these mandates that to me just backwards, right? And then obviously we had KD call out the mayor in the press conference, which he got fined for that, or he gonna get fined for that. But I understand him calling him out. Call out the mayor, you know what I mean? And basically said, that what's the point of this? Like you just seeking attention or what? And then you have the mayor clapping back that, hey, if Kyrie wants to play, he can always play. Just go and get vaccinated. So now that leads me to believe, okay, now, so what I thought we were trying to get some ground on this situation. So what is actually happening? Like, are we actually gaining ground on him playing, or is this just going to be a run around,
Yeah, it
right?
sounds just like a what you call it? Power struggle, basically.
Yeah, it sounds like ego involved. And obviously we ain't trying to get into politics on the sport, but this does control whether the dude plays and us full time or not. Uh, like I said,
I
season is winding down.
Yeah, I think they're
I,
gonna lift it at some point because I
yeah,
see now even with MLB, they saying, "Oh, if you was a New York Yankee player or a New York Mets
right.
player,
And
you
that's gonna bring
can't
it up
play."
too.
And I was like, "Okay, well, now
That
Kyrie
might
get
change some
more
things
back."
too. Yeah, that might change some things too, because now you got a different organization now who could be campaigning for some stuff as well. So that probably could escalate the situation. So I think that could probably work in the favor of Kyrie Lewis.
Yeah,
If now you got a
definitely
big
will.
organization like the Yankees, uh,
Exactly.
that could probably put some things in motion now. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But on that front, we talked about um, the Nets just now, and and we usually don't really talk about regular season games, but I just want to get to that Brooklyn game versus Philly um last week, in which they really put a beat down on Philly. And see, people wonder why I never picked a team coached by Doc Rivers to win anything. Right? Not only a team coached by Doc Rivers, but a team that has James Harden as one of their main superstars. Because to me, that was a that was such a, even though it was a regular season game, certain games mean more than others. And that was a game to me where Brooklyn came in very, very motivated. Kyrie said, I want God Harden, right? You never see Kyrie really take on a challenge like that defensively, but he's like, well, I want God to do it, right? You see KD getting to with Embiid. KD got God and Embiid for stretches. And I just like Brooklyn rose to the moment, and the Sixers sort of shied away from that. Embiid sort of played, Embiid had a bad game in terms of all that, but he played aggressive. But Harden didn't really look good at all. And
No.
this is why I question when people, even when they made the trade, even though I said both teams made out good, I question why people felt as if the Sixers were the favorite in the East, because I just don't really see it with them. I don't see the leadership. I don't see the toughness, mental toughness, and I definitely don't see the coaching. Um, so to me, this is why I say if they find some way to get it together, then of course I could see people picking them. But yeah, I Philly. I don't see it in Philly. What's your thoughts on the Philly dynamic?
Um, it's like you say, a very interesting dynamic. People try to compare it to Shaq and Kobe or
I've seen that. Very
something
disrespectful.
like that. Totally, totally different. Shaq and Embiid games are. not similar. Has few resemblance, but very not similar. And I wouldn't even get Kobe and James Harden. But yeah, it's enough to get you past regular teams. So it's like Philly did just enough to be a playoff team, or just enough to be a good team, but not enough to be a great team. Like you can have situations where, oh, you have James Harden going off one night, going crazy. Then the next night he come and shooting what, 1 for 30, and then you got Embiid going off one night, and Embiid giving you 40 points, 15 rebounds, 12 assists, and then like you say the next night he got to shoot friggin' 18 shots just to get 12 points because his shot off. Whereas in Brooklyn, it's like you see what these guys doing. One game you got Durant game 50. Next game you got Kyrie game you 60. Then the next game you got Curry coming off the bench game you 20, 25. And all this happens while Ben Simmons sitting there grinning, smiling, and laughing. And he is another guy who could come out and give you 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. So it's like, wait, that Philly team and that Philly game on the whole, like I told you when that trade went down. Um, I always felt that Philly lost that trade. Um, and Philly just has been doing questionable stuff on the start, not even just with the James Harden acquisition, but also with signing Tobias Harris to a max. Like, what made you feel like Tobias Harris is a max? Like, who came about and said, "Hey, this guy is even on up for grabs," or who said that, "Hey, this guy was even eligible for a max," to say, "Hey, yeah, he is showing something over the past couple of years. Let me put him on with max contract and bring him in." He ain't do nothing really. You come in here wasting money on a max, and you lose Jimmy Butler. You lose key pieces to where you almost had to start over. Thank God for Embiid wanting to stay, because all Embiid had to do was open his mouth and say, "Hey, I tired of Philly," and boy, that would have been a whole different situation down there. So it's like all these come into play with the whole Philadelphia situation, but I don't see them getting past Brooklyn. And to be honest, it's I don't even see them getting past Milwaukee, honestly and truly, with that current um, roster and with that situation the way it is.
Yeah, I think that's it. To me, if they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals at least, I think this is a catastrophic failure if they don't make at least the Eastern Conference Finals. You can't have two dudes, a guy who probably supposed to win MVP and Embiid, and another guy who said is a superstar, and not get to the Eastern Conference Finals at least. To me, that'd be a huge failure. And I think they probably gone in the second round. That's how I feel. I think they probably gone in the second round. Um, Out west, the race getting well, not really tight. Phoenix running away with the number one seed. Uh, they should have the number one seed. Golden State and Memphis locked in now in a fight for the two seed, right? And you got Draymond Green coming out yesterday saying that it don't matter whether we the two or the three seed, we can win the championship. What's your thoughts on that?
You know I don't like Draymond Green. Like, you know how he's making me sick. Because all the time they told this cut it. When Clay was out, when Steph was out, when Durant left, you was taking all the smoke. And you wasn't winning nothing. You were sitting over on the sideline crying. You're sitting on the sideline whining. Sitting on the sideline really just being a nuisance. Um, and everybody's talking about, oh, when I get off on Draymond, you like, but this place give you 5 points, 5 rebounds, and probably must see 5 steals. Or, well, what you expect him to do if he have Clay, Steph, and Durant? Okay, like I said, Durant left, Steph got injured, Clay got injured. Dog was literally the only person on that team who, so say, they are um, all-star caliber or high level caliber players. And when I say, okay, cool, let's see what Draymond good for. Dog still come with you an average 5 points, 5 rebounds, five. So it'd be like, bro. You
You really
realize like
expect him to do more than that, though? Come
I
on.
mean,
What
me
you
personally, of course not. But the excuse was, oh, he doesn't have the opportunity to do these things. Or if he was on his own team, he would look much better because X, Y, and Z. Be like, bro, he had that team for a year. And they was taking pure smoke because Draymond isn't an offensive leader. He isn't a defensive leader. I like, I mean, I don't like him at all, but he's just, in my book, he is rated in the same category as Patrick Beverly. Like,
Stop it. Stop
they
it. We
running
get that,
around,
though. We
they
gotta get that
running
before he
around
goes.
making noise, and you running around making noise,
No,
and you riding teams like Patrick Beverly. I don't even think is start or has
he was
start on any team he's on that was good.
he don't
I'd be
start
like,
with them was currently.
you
We
what?
get that. He don't start with them was, but we get that. Listen,
Exactly.
behave yourself now, all right? Behave yourself. You running out. Draymond Green, before he was injured this year, Draymond Green already has a defensive player of the year. Before he got injured, he was the clear front runner to win it again, right? So
Just
on
get out to
defense,
everybody.
Draymond definitely is that dude. Now on offense, I can give you that. On offense, to me, I think his value on offense is the fact that he knows he ain't really got it offensively. So let me just find my best players. I think that's his biggest value. And a lot of players don't really have that IQ to say, okay, you know what, I already got it. So let me just pass the ball to Steph as much as possible, or pass the ball to Clay as much as possible. And now you got Jordan Poole coming along too. But how do I feel about his comments? No matter if he's 2 or 3 seed, I feel as if he got they got a point. Again, you could say you ain't like him or whatever the case may be, but sometimes Fox is Fox. I feel as if as long as the Warriors healthy, they will
Yes,
definitely progress. That's how I
as
feel.
long as they're healthy, they have a chance. They have
Yeah.
a very good chance.
Now, when you talk about whoever comes to the East, I don't know. I don't know if the Warriors have a chance at whoever comes out the East, right? If Brooklyn comes out the East and they on all cylinders, they are going to be a tough team to beat, right? Uh, Milwaukee has a lot of size. They may be a tough team to beat, right? But I never pick on a hardened team to win a championship, so that's out the question. But do I think they have a chance to win the West? Definitely, if everybody is healthy. Definitely is everybody's healthy. So I'm not mad at that comment. You know what I mean? I know you're mad it comes from Draymond, but I ain't really mad at that comment, right? But I want to switch gears just for a quick second because you said something. You said you remind me of Patrick Beverly. Before you wrap up, Patrick Beverly was on the JJ Redick podcast the other day, and they asked Beverly about his comments about Westbrook. Beverly recently made some comments to say, but you know, Westbrook is the magician now because Westbrook say all he is be doing, all Patrick Beverly is be doing is run around. He trick you. So Patrick Beverly recently made some comments, and I have to agree with what Patrick Beverly said. I still think he's the wrong nigga, but I had to agree with what he said. He said that Russ changed his perception around the league, which is why he does not feel sorry for the position that Russ is in now. He said when Russ told people, or when Russ said that, what the hell? When Russ said that he doesn't play any defense, he just be running around screaming, or whatever the case may be. He said opposing coaches started to look at him differently. Opposing players started to look at him differently. Hey, pun, take care of whatever this is on YouTube, man. This is sharp to me, right? Opposing coaches started to look at him differently. Opposing players started to look at him differently, right? And he said that people said, you know what, maybe Patrick Beverly doesn't play defense. Maybe all he does is run around and scream and say that sort of ruined his perception around the league, which is why he does not feel sorry for Russell Westbrook. Do you feel that Russell Westbrook had a hand in ruining his perception?
First of all, if you did play defense, no one could ruin your perception. My thing is with Patrick Beverly, he does it a lot, and he said too also that when after Westbrook said that, guys just started going at him. You know what that means? That means guys know that Westbrook was right, because it'd be like, okay, cool, yeah. If I know I get Beverly that this night, They'd be like, oh yeah, they say he's a good. They say now. When I say they, it's like the media and whatever say, oh, he's this type of player. He's this type of lockdown defender. And then Rashford would be like, boy, this boy really be running up and down, tricking you on now. Then you go and look and be like, I mean, dog, he ain't stopping nobody from through you. Then you go and see him get torched, or you go there and you start hitting a couple of shots against him, and you try to say, wait, hold on now. Ooh, boy, listen, let me go at this guy for true. So, like Beverly say, when it comes to even in this one practice, guys wanted a piece of him. Then when you go game time, fellas want to light you up because you run on. And to be honest, it's that's the target you put on your back. It's almost like I said earlier, when you want to do great things, you have to sacrifice. So if that's the target, people like Draymond and people like Patrick Beverly put on themselves, then when guys come at you, just like when, like I said, when it was no Steph and Clay, boy, fellas was beating the brakes off Golden State. They couldn't wait to warm up against Golden State. Fellas, them was ready. Wait, they was every game was a problem. Fellas, them was boxing Golden State head off every game, knowing that hey, only Draymond, yeah, who can save them?
Yeah, I think what your point about Beverly is, like you say, I think what it comes down to is this: dudes look at him and they say, "Boy, Westbrook say he's all he's do is scream, all he's do is scream, all he's do is make noise, or whatever the case may be." So that means your perception of defense is based off people fearing you, right? So if people have to fear you for you to be a good defender, then you can look at it and you can be, and they can look at it and be like, you know what? Maybe all this players really do is scream for real. Maybe it ain't really. Maybe it's defense is just based off him scaring people. Maybe that's just all his defense is based off. And after that, people can say, you know what? Cool. Let me just attack this dude. Like you say, I score a couple jump shots and be like, all right, but it is what it is. You say, saying, if you are that defender, obviously, you can't be worried about people coming at you. People coming at you should excite you. That should make you
Exactly.
happy. You say, saying. So again, that's how I look at it. Um, as we about to wrap up, you got any closing words? Closing words you want to say? You want to shout out anybody?
Obviously, shout out Tom Brady, LFG. Um, Thanks for coming back. We left the light on for you. Um, Shout out baseball. Finally coming to agreement now. We
Yeah,
might
they
have
came into a
little
locker agreement.
spring training. My Yankee is doing pretty well. We just signed some baseball players. I just, like who else? Who else I want to shout out? Shout out Shine. Our Shine engineer. He's be here slapping up in the background day in and day out. Um, what else? Like, yeah, we're pretty good. Pretty good. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Shout out to all the Beamers still doing their thing. Across there. You know what I mean? Shout out to I want to shout out to Coach Yo from Ole Miss, for securing one of those number one seeds women's basketball. Shout out to her. She building a real program over there. A real powerhouse ever since she really became a head coach. So shout out to her. And yeah, shout out to all the Beamers doing big things abroad. You know what I mean? Hope y'all continue doing what y'all doing and shining where y'all need to shine. Right. So until next week, we have some more stuff to talk about. The NCAA tournament starting up soon. They already got the seeds picked out. So we'll probably bring you a recap of some of those games next week. Uh, but until next week, uh, experts, we'll catch y'all later. We out.
Yeah, we